Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I think we'll start.
Yeah, let's get going.
Okay, great. So warm welcome to today's Impact webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. As many of you will know, we recently published our latest impact report. This is something we do every 6 months to ensure transparency and share the tangible impact and results of the Global Returns portfolio with our donors. This is how we track our progress and, most importantly, demonstrate the power of your support. So why is giving to climate and nature so important? Now, before diving into the detail of the report, we wanted to pause for a moment and step back. Much of this audience is already aware and understands the importance of climate and nature giving, but it's worth reminding ourselves just what's at stake. The last 9 years have been the warmest globally on record, and over 1 million species are threatened with extinction, many in just the next few decades. Since 1970, we've lost more than 2/3 of the world's wildlife population, with 70% of the insect population lost. And despite this, forests absorb nearly 30% of annual CO2 emissions, which continue to rise. But we're still losing over 10 million hectares of forest every year, which is equivalent to the size of Portugal. So on the right, we have a wedding cake graphic. And this brings in the broader context of what GRP does. So the wedding cake graphic shows that while there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals, our work focuses on SDG 13, which is climate action, SDG 14, which is life below water, and SDG 15, life on land. Now, these diagrams illustrate how these 3 environmental goals underpin all of the others, whether it's health, education, gender equality, or economic development. None of this is possible without a sustainable, healthy planet to live on. So that's why at GRP, we believe that climate and nature is foundational. It doesn't sit alongside other areas of philanthropy. It supports the very systems that make all other progress possible. So what do we do at GRP? At GRP, we exist to make it simple for individuals and institutions to give to the most effective, high-impact climate and nature charities across the world. We do this by creating a portfolio of rigorously assessed, researched, diversified and scalable charities. Ultimately, our mission is to mainstream environmental giving by funding the most impactful climate and nature charities across the world. Now, we're going to touch a little bit on our global impact. So we've redesigned our wonderful impact report, which you'll be seeing shortly, to have more of a global focus, to show how our charities are not just working across a few countries, but we've now worked out that we're working across 85 countries, which is pretty amazing if you ask me. And one of the most common questions we get when we talk to people about GRP is, why should I give through GRP instead of just donating directly to a charity? And that's a fair question, but our answer is quite simple. There's no downside of giving through GRP because 100% of our donations go directly to the charities in our portfolio. We don't take a cut. And most importantly, your support through GRP ensures that you're contributing to all 3 core SDGs. The scope of our projects span from ocean conservation to fighting against fossil fuel plants, revealing the deforestation linked to coffee beans or pension funds. We wanted to quantify this collective action in our most recent impact report, which Jemima is now going to delve into.
Thank you, Georgie. So yeah, as she's mentioned, I'm our Impact and Partnerships Manager here at GRP. So in the past 6 months, we redesigned our impact report, which has been sent to you and is also available on our website. And we really just wanted to bring to the fore what we do at GRP and how that is kind of an added benefit to what we're doing by giving to the charities. So it's available on Issue, which is kind of like an online platform, and also our website, which you see it just here. And I thought I'd give a really high level examples of kind of the impact that's been had across the globe using that regional focus that we've included in the impact report. So to start off, we're looking at Africa. Our charities are all active in this continent. Like Georgie said, we're active across 85 different countries or more across the globe. And this region's already facing the full force of climate change. You may have seen the recent floods in South Sudan. Average surface temperatures in Africa in 2024 were much higher than across the rest of the world in terms of their average rise. And the impact of particularly the El Nino weather system is particularly felt. Among this, there is good news. GRP charities continue to work by tracing deforestation, particularly linked to Western supply chains, campaigning for logging bans, restoring landscapes, and enforcing law against poaching. For example, thanks to the Rainforest Trust in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, not a single African elephant was poached in the Djeki Triangle in 2024, which is a notorious poaching area. Trillion Trees also continue to monitor the trees that they plant through community guardians. There's over a 94% survival rate in the trees in projects in Kenya. A big highlight is that Blue Marine ran a really successful grassroots conservation campaign for legislation to protect the African penguin in South Africa. And funds from our campaign towards the end of the year were directed towards this project that had over a 2.2 billion editorial reach and was ultimately successful in getting a last-minute deal to protect African penguins by kind of creating fishing bans on 6 key conservation areas. That's it for Africa. We move on to Europe. Closer to home, obviously, and it's actually, I wasn't aware of this, it's the fastest warming continent on Earth, warming twice as fast as the global average. The EU and national governments are particularly at the centre of what GRP charities are doing in this region. ClientEarth are taking legal action against Spain, France and Germany to prevent bottom trawling in marine protected areas. And Global Canopy has been providing key evidence to Brussels on the importance of strong EU deforestation regulation. And actually, really excitingly, at the UN Ocean Conference, which is ongoing, the UK just announced an intention to ban bottom trawling in marine protected areas, something that Blue Marine has been campaigning on for years. So, some stories that are more highlighted in the impact report in Europe are that whale and dolphin conservation have been campaigning to end whaling in Iceland for years. And in 2024, the hunting season was reopened, which had a license to kill 128 vulnerable fin whales. But excitingly, in April 2025, the same whaling company cancelled its summer whaling plans. WDC's hunting campaigner Luke McMillan says it could signal the beginning of the end for whaling in the country, which is really exciting. ClientEarth also announced a successful resolution to their 2021 case against the Italian government in December. The planned Teodorico gas plant was near the Po Delta, which you may know is bordering a marine protected area and home to some of Europe's most important marine mammals. The site would have pumped out 300,000 meters cubed of gas from the seabed every day and would have threatened the stability of the coastline. The Italian court ultimately, after 3 years of the case, agreed that the project breached environmental protection obligations and has halted the development of the project. Moving on to Asia and Oceania, in the Pacific Islands, over half of the built infrastructure is in coastal areas, and pristine tropical rainforests continue to be threatened across the region. Responding to this, Global Canopy continues to build its networks in the region, and in the past 6 months has held workshops with Indonesian commercial and central banks. This is a really crucial first step in getting the finance sector in Indonesia to better understand and identify their nature-related dependencies. And a really great testimonial of Global Canopy's impact in this region is featured in the impact report. So go there to have a read. Staying in Indonesia, Rainforest Trust and its local partners continue to protect vast areas of pristine rainforest. In March, Rainforest Trust announced that over 252,000 acres of rare habitat has been formally designated on Pelling Island, which is 5 times bigger than the project originally planned. The area's habitat for vulnerable species such as the Sulawesi bear, which is pictured, and the remaining areas of this lush tropical landscape are home to pockets of biodiversity that are only found in this region. It's also the last place on Earth that you can see the critically endangered Bengal crow. Onto the Americas. As we may know, they're significant emitters in the Americas, but also pristine environment and habitat such as the Amazon. It's also coming into even more focus as Brazil hosts COP30 in the coming year. Blue Marine continues to support local-led conservation initiatives in the Dutch Caribbean through their small grants programme, which includes marine acoustic wildlife tracking of 21 species in Bonaire, which is an island off the coast of Venezuela. Whale and dolphin have continued to work with local Argentinian communities to strengthen the reserves of the Lehil bottlenose dolphin through a strengthened management plan. Trillion Trees have planted 31,530 trees across their South American projects in the last reporting period, and are working with local communities to monitor these and enhance sustainable livelihoods. In the Yovel Valley Basin in the highlands of Chiapas in southern Mexico, there's valuable natural features such as rivers, springs, high mountain wetlands, pine oaks, and cloud forests. The area is home to over 300 plant species. Local community members in the past 6 months took part in 21 reforestation projects for the reforestation campaign, restoring 18 hectares of pine oak forest in the upper parts of the watershed. These events are specifically tailored to promote interaction between urban and rural communities and to recognise the importance of environmental services, biodiversity, and the ecosystem services such as how the forest provides water for the city. Global Canopy also launched a new assessment, which is called Floresta 250 Cattle in December, which reveals the key companies and financial institutions linked to cattle-related deforestation in Brazil, alongside some key recommendations for action. By bringing transparency to the Brazilian market for the first time, the report will help unlock action by powerful game changers in the run-up to the 30th UN Climate Change Conference. So, that's a very quick overview of the impact of our charities across the past year. But I also wanted to give a brief portfolio update, which is mentioned in our recent newsletter, but you might not have seen, which is that Whale and Dolphin Conservation have left the portfolio from the beginning of May this year. We had a kind of lengthy consultation process with our technical advisory board of scientists, and we've also kind of had consultation with Whale and Dolphin themselves. And we very sadly said goodbye to them due to shifts in the science around whale carbon sequestration and just a kind of lack of consensus and knowledge about that carbon removal aspect and its contribution to kind of fighting climate change right now. There's a lot of kind of frequently asked questions in this process, and we didn't want to just ignore those. We wanted to be really transparent with donors and just answer some of those that we often get. One of which is whether it's unusual for us to remove a charity from the portfolio. The answer is no, it's pretty routine. If you've been following GRP for a while now, you'll know that we've had 2 into the portfolio, and this is now our 3rd charity to leave the portfolio. And whilst that's quite an elongated process and one where we have kind of long conversations with charities so that it's not a surprise to them, it's also standard for the charity to assume that they'll be in the portfolio for a while, and then the communication will be clear if there's any changes to that position. Second question is a pretty standard one. Why would a charity be removed? And there's a few reasons for that. In the past, we've acted quickly if there's been a governance concern, which is obviously benefit of having GRP look at these charities and continue to monitor them. Or if there's a problem with the charity internally, or which kind of comes to light, or potentially just a shift in the kind of interest and main activity of the charity. So sometimes what we have chosen the charity for potentially then becomes less of a kind of strong aspect of their work. Finally, which is the reason for Whale and Dolphin leaving the portfolio, is a shift in scientific consensus. So a strong part of our model is the technical advisory board, and if they flag any reasons for concern or further research, then we dig into that and they make the final decision. If a charity is removed, does that mean it isn't doing valuable work? No, of course not. It just means that the reevaluation has shown that they're not necessarily fitting what GRP is looking for in terms of our broad sector overview of climate work at the moment. Obviously, it goes without saying Whale and Dolphin have had a really net positive contribution on ocean biodiversity and continue to in terms of protecting marine areas. Should the charity have ever been in the portfolio? Well, yes, the understanding at the time was very much about the role of whales and dolphins in terms of sequestering carbon and their carbon value. And whilst this is still up in the air, there's no doubt that whales and dolphins are extremely important for marine conservation and remain so. And so the scientists now feel that the marine biodiversity argument without the carbon sequestration consensus may not be enough to justify whale and dolphins' position, but an alternative will be researched, and we continue to value what Whale and Dolphin have achieved through your funding whilst they've been in the portfolio. So to wrap up, we're now in a position where we have 6 charities in the portfolio. You may remember that Rainforest Alliance joined in February 2025, and donations are now split 6 ways between the brilliant charities that are left in our portfolio. And I'm now going to hand back over to Georgie to briefly touch on what's coming up for us.
Yes, very exciting. So part of GRP's offering is obviously our community event, and our next one is on the 23rd of June. It's part of London Climate Action Week, which is going to be a very fun-packed week. We've just been looking at the agenda ourselves. And this is going to be a spotlight on Guatemala, talking about forest, food, and the future. So we've got Santiago, the CEO of Rainforest Alliance, the new charity that we've added in the past few months, joining us, as well as Jolene from Global Canopy and Tim from Trillion Trees. So it's going to be a really great event, and the details are on our LinkedIn page. So definitely try and sign up and register. We'll both be there. Jemima is going to be leading a very interesting panel discussion with these 3 speakers, and more events coming over summer, definitely.
Great. Any questions?
Yeah,
we pop them in the chat.
There's a little Q&A section that
well, there's actually both, which is bizarre, but either one we'll see them.
Yeah, so anything for us, events, new charity, portfolio, projects.
If not, I can ask you a great question, then we can wrap up and go back to our lunch.
I hope I have the answer.
I was going to ask,
okay,
now that one charity has left the portfolio, would there ever be the potential for another one to join?
That's a great question. Absolutely. We are looking to add another charity to the portfolio to take us back up to 7. And as you mentioned, we didn't remove Whale and Dolphin because we were adding Rainforest Alliance, but it has worked out that we're back to 6 charities, and we would like to add a 7th. I think the timeline is towards the end of the year, which is very exciting, and we'll share kind of more information about what that will look like and what area that will be. But I think it's going to be something new and exciting for the portfolio.
Great.
Oh, here we go.
And building on that,
how many new charities do you project will be added to GRP's portfolio over the next 5 years? A great question.
I'm very happy to take that.
Go for it.
Well, dependent on kind of timeline in terms of donations, we don't want to be adding charities such that it splits too much and takes away from what our current charities get, because obviously donations are split equally between the charities, but we'd like to kind of grow the portfolio up to potentially about 8 if our donations keep growing in the way that they are over the next 5 years, just in terms of making sure that we're hitting even more aspects of what we call our total opportunity set, which is kind of a set of actions that kind of across the whole scope of climate activity that charities can effectively carry out across the world. So potentially up to about 8 over the next 5 years, Lizzie.
Definitely. And I think it's important to say the reason why we take our time to add them is to make sure that the funding for each charity isn't decreased each year. So if we add a 7th next year, we want to make sure that we're able to raise the same amount so those charities get the same amount of money, if not more, that next financial year. So that's the process, but we're excited. Oh, another question.
Yes, Alexina's asked, could I check to see if I'll be receiving an A4 one-pager which summarises my personal impact through the 6 charities? It's a really cool thing to have. Absolutely. In fact, we're picking up those certificates today. So with our impact report, we'll be sending those out to kind of bigger donors in terms of the impact that we can track in terms of what that's been achieved. So absolutely, we'll be sending those out. Yes,
it's actually got a new format, which is quite exciting, along with our new format of our impact report. So you will be receiving that next week or the week after.
Great. Okay. I think unless there's any more, that's it.
That's it from us.
We will let you get back to your lunches, but thank you very much for joining.
Yes. And any questions, ping us an email. We'd love to hear from you.
Bye all.